also acknowledge the fact that the Mariners have not won a thing at the big league level with Dipoto at the helm. It's true. That is also true. There are a handful of bad trades that you can't even say, yeah, they lost that. No, it turned out bad considering what the Mariners received in return versus what they ultimately end up giving up, right? Like, we can argue, and it's probably true in a lot of cases, that Freddie Peralta and Pablo Lopez developed differently in the Mariners system in 2016 and 2017 than they did in Miami, right? We can that those things are true, right? Like Milwaukee and Miami do things differently than Seattle. So when you make those deals, the D. Gordon and Adam Lynn deals with Milwaukee and Miami, you're pushing these players into different developmental environments. So in 16 and 17, you heard me talk in the draft episodes about how it really seems like the scouting and the player development departments really kind of hit their stride in 2018. Jerry was still making changes. Andy McKay was still making changes. It really wasn't full go, I don't believe, until 2018. So when they make those trades, the development staff wasn't really, like, he didn't really know what your strengths or weaknesses were. And even in your scouting staff, if Jerry goes to a scouting staff and says, what am I giving up here? Well, a lot of those people are gone, for one, and it takes time for GMs to do that. But at the end of the day, those are L's. Those are L's. And the fact that the Mariners have not won with Jerry Dipoto as general manager, that it's not an L yet, but that's a fact. That is a fact. That we're not going to be able to make excuses for that. We're not going to be able to go, yeah, but. That they just haven't. And just like be okay with that. Because there actually is an explanation, a very reasonable explanation. It's not a yeah, but, because it's fact. It is absolute 100% fact they haven't won, right? 89 wins in 2018 isn't winning unless it wins you the division or at least gets you into the playoffs. And they were 8 games out of the playoffs that year. So that hasn't happened. We don't know for fact Jerry is the guy to get Seattle back to October baseball. We don't know that Jerry Dipoto is the guy to ultimately complete the rebuild, which lands the Mariners in the 95-plus win range at least a handful of times over the next 2 to 6 years. We don't know that, right? But let's also make sure to note the fact that Jerry Dipoto has been the general manager since the fall prior to the 2016 season. Let's make sure we get that out there too, okay? So prior to the 2016 season, all fact, all of that is indisputable. All of the above, absolutely 100% indisputable. Now, how many out there in your circles, but not including yourself, understand that when Jerry Dipoto was hired, the plan was as follows? And this is fact because it's so obvious that especially after somebody points it out to you, if you can't see it, then you don't want to and you refuse to because it doesn't feed your narrative. The plan was clearly as follows and dictated as part of the agreement and understanding between Dipoto and the ownership group when they hired him. Now, technically, Stanton wasn't the owner, wasn't the majority group owner when they hired Dipoto, but everybody knew what was coming. So this was Stanton's hire very, very much. The plan was, let's do everything we can within reason for the next couple of years with what we have, with what the roster is, with the very little money we have available, because we're not giving you big time dollars to invest. There's no more significant financial investment in the payroll coming anytime soon. And when the time is right, the ownership will be open to rebuilding the right way, Jerry, just like you want to. That's how it went. Dipoto started his tenure in Seattle knowing this to be true. Took a few shots in 2016, 2017 to a lesser degree, and 2018 to max out the limited opportunities. Won 86 games, 78 games, and 89 games, and then put the rebuilding gear. All of the above also fact. As is the fact the farm system was awful. It just was. And as much as I like Tyler O'Neill, the farm system was bad. You had to Nick Neidert. You had to really reach to come up with good, projectable future major leaguers. There might only be 1 to 3 in that whole group, and two of them, they ended up keeping, some of those guys and moving them later, but they're not a lot of, we're seeing Tyler O'Neill have it now, but he's done it for 90 games. Let's see what his future holds, but that would be it. And the Mariners actually made a quality trade with Tyler O'Neill. Now the detractors will try and point out that the cupboard wasn't bare at all, and that he should have won a lot more than he did 2016 to 2018, and maybe not even torn it down. Now, we've gone over why they tore it down and when they did. It was the absolute perfect time to do it. We've gone over that. I won't rehash that. But how about, I saw somebody the other day on Twitter, last week on Twitter, Mike Zunino, all-star. Taijuan Walker, all-star. If you guys know who that was, I know some of you saw that. If you guys know who that is, just block them. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Using all-star as a way to say there was talent here. Oh. Okay. So, yeah, after all, you had Taijuan Walker, and you had the all-star, Taijuan Walker, and you had all-star Mike Zunino. You had Seager, you had Felix, you had Cano, you had Cruz, you had James Paxton, you had Asashi Iwakuma, plus Ketel Marte and Tyler O'Neill on the farm. Cool, let's dive into all that. Cool, gotcha. Let's dive into all of that. All of those players but O'Neill and Marte spent most or all of 2015 in the majors, and that club didn't do squat. Is that not evidence to you that the team was not good enough? How much more evidence do you need than having watched the team that you're talking about fail miserably? O'Neill was traded for a quality mid-rotation starting pitcher that's already been worth 9 wins above replacement. Marte and Walker were traded for Mitch Haniger and Gene Segura. Walker gave the D-backs pretty much nothing, although it was because of TJ surgery, so I'm not going to rip the D-backs for it. He hits free agency and 2 years later makes an all-star team, and that is supposed to tell us that Dipoto had legit talent to work with and should have won? He turns into an all-star with the Mets, and I'm supposed to believe that he was an all-star caliber talent at the time the Mariners had him and at the time the Mariners traded him? Ergo, Jerry Dipoto's bad? You've got to be kidding me. I'm supposed to take you seriously? I'm supposed to take you people seriously? Let's go into the Zunino deal. Zunino's 2 control years in Tampa, which is what Seattle traded away, were worth, stay with me, less than a third of what Jake Fraley has been worth this season alone, and exactly what Fraley has given Seattle since the trade. So not only did they not lose that trade, which really isn't the point here, they're going to win it. But Zunino's all-star year, with hard finger quotes around all-star year, because that kind of a status is ridiculously arbitrary and belongs nowhere near an evaluation of personnel decisions or the people that are making them. But that year, this year, 2021, Mike Zunino's quote-unquote all-star season came after the control years the Mariners traded away. The Rays had to spend free agent dollars on Mike Zunino to get that season out of him. What part of this equation do you people not understand? So nice try there, but I'm telling you, anybody listening, if somebody is telling you the Mariners traded an all-star for Jake Fraley, that person is a complete idiot, and I'm willing to walk in front of their face and tell them that. I'm so tired of this garbage. And part of the problem here is social media. This stuff is not a matter of opinion. It is fact that Taijuan Walker was an all-star 6 years after he was traded. Go look at what he's doing this year compared to what he was capable of doing when Jerry Dipoto arrived. And you come to that conclusion? We can't even go to Marte's explosion in Arizona and say, yeah, what a bad deal that was, because he had one great year. But we can't even say, oh, you should have known. You should have known that Marte was going to... What has Marte actually done here? And Jerry had plenty of talent to win his first 3 years in Seattle prior to the rebuild. Ketel Marte was great in 2019. Again, it's a 7-win season. You don't get that a whole lot. And his control years won't expire until after, I believe, next season. The same as when Haniger's does, by the way. But what about Marte's time in Arizona as a whole suggests, yeah, if they don't make that deal and they keep Walker and Marte, they're a good team. How do you come to that conclusion? Even in pieces, how do you come to that conclusion? They made the trade after the 16 season. Marte was worth less than a win and then 2.5 wins his first 2 years with the D-backs. How does that make a winning impact? You'd have been without Haniger and Segura in 17 and 18. And those two players were worth a combined 13.5 wins above replacement, according to the Fangraphs formula, over the first 2 seasons in Seattle before the teardown. Dipoto literally and factually maxed out his opportunity in the early years. Did he make some mistakes that may have helped now because he was trying to do that? Yes. Nobody